Bill, getting an update from our Capitol Hill producers here. I'm told that the briefings just ended on the House side and that Democrat Congressman Jim Himes, the ranking member of the House Intel Committee, came out, spoke to media and said they were shown the unedited video of that second strike. And he says, quote,
"What I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors."
That was Representative Jim Himes. He was one of the few congressmen to see the footage, the unedited full footage of the strikes on the alleged drug traffickers from September 2nd. This is the footage that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, is under a lot of heat for, and we're starting to publicly investigate what's going on over there. Now some lawmakers have seen it, and they are not happy. Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley met behind closed doors with members of the House and Senate in an attempt to defend the Trump administration's decisions to slaughter two individuals who clung to the wreckage of their boat. Ahead of the meeting, military attorneys claimed that there could be a legitimate explanation for the second strike if Bradley was able to prove the survivors posed a credible threat to U.S. military personnel. But the footage supposedly left no room for doubt that that was not the case. Senator Jack Reed was similarly upset by the classified briefing, telling reporters in a statement that he was, quote, deeply disturbed by what he saw. Even Republican Senator Rand Paul was incensed by the footage and demanded that it be released. Quote, "I think if the public sees images of people clinging to boat debris and being blown up, I think that there is a chance that finally the public will get interested enough to stop this." But not everyone that attended the briefing seemed to walk away with the same understanding. Despite the clarified details, Republican Senator Tom Cotton argued that, quote, "the first strike, the second strike, and the third and fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and that the sequential attacks were, quote, exactly what we'd expect our military commanders to do." Donald Trump, however, is still backing Hegseth. The president has so far brushed off the widespread anger at his Defense Department pick, telling inquiring reporters Wednesday that, quote, "this is war." So I think one new piece of information that we're learning here, Mike, is that not only was there a second strike, but there seemed to be a third and a fourth strike that was confirmed by Tom Cotton, who apparently saw the footage. What do you make of this seemingly breaking revelations in the story, and also Trump's "this is war" quote? What's up with that?
Well, regarding the additional strikes, I find that interesting because I had only heard that we double tapped. I didn't realize that we quadruple tapped. So I doubt we're ever going to see these videos as the public. Maybe we'll get them declassified and get them released. I know that Rand Paul was calling for them to be shown to the public. So hopefully we do, because I'm dying of curiosity, but obviously classified information and things like that, I'm not really sweating not being shown anything. But when our lawmakers are coming out, and this is specifically, I believe, the Committee on Intelligence that it was revealed to, and if they are coming out saying, "Oh my goodness, this looks really bad," and it's bipartisan, then I'm inclined to lean towards them and hope that they can steer us on the right path here. I do remember hearing that when the story first broke and there was a double tap, and Hegseth came out saying, "Oh, well, I wasn't really there." And even then, it was all the fog of war because you couldn't really see anything. The boat had exploded. So already there, I couldn't understand, well, if the boat was exploded and everything was kind of done and you left the room, then why would you need a second strike in the first place? Now, I'm not in the military. I'm sure there's probably certain standard operating procedures for something like that. Maybe it's to sink the vessel after a certain amount of time. I have no idea, but I always found that pretty interesting. But to find out that there's a third and a fourth strike, I'd be very curious to hear what the justifications for those are. As for the "this is war" statement, I do think that's pretty interesting, given that we're not at war with anybody. Trump hasn't even declared war on Venezuela or Colombia or any of these South American countries. So I don't really understand what he means by this is war, other than just like a figure of speech of, how Americans love to go to war with everything. But I think those are words he needs to be careful using because they carry a lot of weight.
Yeah. It seems weird that we're doing everything from the standpoint of actions of war against Venezuela, like flying B-52 bombers off the coast, like sending the largest aircraft carrier in the world down there, like having 11 carriers in total, or at least talking about dropping leaflets on Caracas. It seems like we're taking closing their airspace. Let me not forget that. It seems like we're taking all of the steps as if we would be at war, yet this administration is doing everything it can to not call it a war. So it's honestly, I think that people should call a spade, and this is a war. It's a war with Venezuela. We are literally trying to oust the leader of a foreign nation, of a sovereign country. Trump has been, he's had several phone calls with him, I believe, and basically trying to get him to step down and fly to another country and let his puppet, Maria Corina Machado, step in as the new leader. And, if everyone is seeing this play out, I think it's safe to call this a war. Like it's probably a few months due now that we're calling this a war. I mean, let alone all the boat strikes that have been happening. Allegedly, they're on drug traffickers, but as we see from these reports, like we reported on with our last story, one of them appears to be a Colombian fisherman, a legitimate Colombian fisherman. He has a name, he has a family that are putting forward an official declaration of that. And, you can't just do things that are acts of war and not call it a war. I think the media really needs to step it up here and call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I'd say you're right. These are definitely some acts of war when it comes to closing the airspace and laying siege, more or less, as well as threatening to do strikes on land. Now, those things haven't happened yet, as far as the strikes on land go. And obviously, the leaflets have not happened yet, although they've been talked about. And even the leaflets would also be another act of war as well. So there's definitely like rumors of war lingering in the air. And that's why I said if he's officially coming out saying it's a war, then okay, so be it. But at the same time, he's also been saying, well, I've been stopping all these wars. So maybe maybe in his mind, it's like if I stop 7, 8, 9, 10 wars, but I start 1 or 2 or 3, hey, it all balances out. I'm not going to pretend like I understand the logic of Donald Trump here, but yeah, I agree that I see what you're saying, and we should definitely be recognizing that this is by far an escalation and a growing escalation, a continuing escalation with no signs of stopping. And again, as I've mentioned in our other videos that cover these topics, it reminds me a lot of Iraq and the propaganda that was pushed on us leading into that. And we're seeing a lot of that play out here as well.
Yeah, I would say it's a coup. It's an open air coup. It's a coup that's being publicly televised. Like their goal is to literally oust Maduro and put in a right wing puppet to that's going to do what the U.S. wants. In this case, Maria Corina Machado, like I mentioned, and she's going to basically open their oil reserves to all these U.S. investors and companies to come in and do resource extraction. And this was actually admitted by Trump a couple years ago during his campaign for his second term, where he even mentioned that Venezuela was ready to collapse at the end of his first term, and we would have gone in and gotten all the oil. We have Maria Corina Machado just talking about oil all the time in interviews that she's doing. And, I think the objective is clear to most people paying attention here. And I think the war statement was just a ridiculous, almost Freudian slip of like, clearly this is some kind of war. Trump almost admitted it there, just like he almost admitted the true goals of the oil from a couple of years ago. Where Trump has this way of just kind of running his mouth and accidentally saying the truth. It's just insane that because there's been no formal declaration that no one is supposed to consider it a war, even though what we're seeing here are all acts of war, as I was mentioning. I do wish the media would kind of step up and be a little bit more aggressive on that front, but I do understand, there's a lot of there's so much going on in the news cycle that if Venezuela was the only thing that we could talk about, I'm sure we would be making a lot more progress on that front. But just with all the crazy stuff this administration is doing, including the attempted regime change in Venezuela, and now the election meddling that we see in Honduras, let alone all the domestic stuff that's going on. We got the Epstein files, we got the economy just shitting itself, jobs disappearing. There's just so much to keep up with. So yeah, it would be nice for the media to just kind of keep up with all this stuff, but that's why we're here, to fill in some of the gaps where a lot of the stuff you're not seeing on the mainstream news, and a lot of this, these clips and this coverage and this commentary, you're not going to get there. And I think us diving into these articles hopefully can bring some value, and we're going to keep our eyes on this, because this is one of the biggest stories that I'm following, what's going on there in Venezuela, because I think it does echo back to what's happening back at home. Even though to the layman it might not seem like there's a connection there, I think there's a very strong connection there, because it's like how we treat others is really how we treat ourselves. And we're making our bed and we're laying in it, so to speak. So I think we're going to keep you guys posted on all this stuff with Venezuela, and there's going to be more to come for sure.